Today's episode is going to be about the hypersexualization of girls and women in media. And we're going to start by talking about Billie Eilish, who is a pop star. She's 19 years old, and she was kind of known for wearing baggy, loose clothing that hid her body. And she stated that this was because she didn't want to feel uncomfortable. She didn't want to be sexualized. Now, recently, she's changed her look. She's kind of been rebranded as this, sexualized image that we see over and over again from pop stars, because she really did stand out when she wore those baggy clothes. It was quite refreshing because every single pop star is doing this softcore porn thing. Now she's kind of veering a little bit closer towards that in her recent videos and photo shoots. To begin with, Billie Eilish. Something interesting that happened was last fall, Billie went viral on Twitter for kind of on the internet because she was photographed wearing more form-fitting clothing, wearing like a camisole and
it's like shorts. A white tank top or something.
Yeah, it was a like beige tank top and beige shorts. And it was much more revealing than her usual clothing. So a lot of people were shaming her and saying that she looked horrible. And then people were obviously sexualizing her.
And this is like a paparazzi photo, right? This wasn't even one that she meant to put up.
It was like a candid photo of her walking around.
So they're literally just shaming her for what she was wearing in her casual day-to-day life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was obviously I remember when that was trending on Twitter, and it's so depressing and disheartening. And like, for me now, I'm 26 years old. I see that, I completely brush it off. I know it doesn't have anything to do with me, but for young girls looking at that, or like girls who are her age, around 18 or 19, they see that and it sends them a powerful message that this is the reaction you will get when your body is shown to other people. But at the same time, our culture does not give you the option of not doing that and being cool. This is what's cool in our culture. So Billie gave some quotes about this whole incident, if I want to even call it that, to exaggerate it, I guess, but it shouldn't be an incident. Boobgate 2019. Yeah, I mean, it's so insane. It should not be an incident. It's just she's walking around. Okay. And she said, the point is not, hey, let's go slut shame all these girls for not dressing like Billie Eilish. It makes me mad. I have to wear a big shirt for you to not feel uncomfortable about my boobs. And then she said, I was recently FaceTiming a close friend of mine who's a dude, and I was wearing a tank top. He was like, ugh, put a shirt on. And I said, I have a shirt on. Someone with smaller boobs could wear a tank top, and I could put on that exact tank top and get slut shamed because my boobs are big. This is stupid. It's the same shirt. I'm going to be a woman. I want to show my body. What if I want to make a video where I want to look desirable? Not a porno, but I know it would be a huge thing. I know people will say I've lost all respect for her.
This reminds me of the Slut Walk, which is, for those who may be blissfully unaware, it is a movement of women who, and I guess men have started to join in, who do like a march down the street on like a given day in the year, wearing so-called slutty clothes or revealing clothes. And the point is to say that no matter what you're wearing or not wearing, that it doesn't mean that you're asking for sexual assault, sexual harassment, etc. And that is true. Like, it's absolutely true. You should be able to be standing naked on the street corner and not get raped. And that is, undeniable. But what is also hard to deny is that men seem to really enjoy the Slut Walk.
I know.
Like, anytime I've seen one of these events, I've not personally participated in one, but every time I've seen them, like, I've had friends go to them and I've like gone to be supportive or like driven them or whatever. And there are always men gawking on the side of the street, basically just enjoying the march of free porn that they're getting. And I have always found it really hard to justify this as feminist. I, again, agree that the message of, it doesn't matter what we're wearing, we're still not asking for it, like, and, this anti-victim blaming message, I think, is worthwhile. And I agree with that. And that is feminist. But I don't think that the act of taking off your clothes as a woman in public really does, for the most part, I mean, there may be exceptions, but for the most part, I think it's only benefiting men. And if you find some sort of like liberation or like empowerment in that, that's great for you. But the point is that this is always going to be perceived by men as something good for them. And so if it's good for men, I have a hard time thinking that it's particularly feminist, especially in the realm of like sexual empowerment. So that
It's
to
so
me is a red flag.
embarrassing. It's like, yeah, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's like the left is pushing this stuff uncritically. I remember a few years ago, I was in a socialist organization. I was kind of trying to find my footing politically. You know, I went from the Green Party to the Socialist to now just whatever the fuck I am now. I don't know. I'm not affiliated with any groups. And I remember in this one socialist meeting, we somehow the topic of these slut walks came up and I was critiquing it. I was like the lone turf. I was like the only person with these kinds of critical views that I knew in socialism. And I got a lot of shit for it. I just left eventually because I was like, oh, so you can't tolerate dissenting views. And then I'm like, oh, big surprise from socialists. Okay. But I remember this other woman was so vehemently against me, what I was saying. She's like, no, that's not what it is. That the slut walk is very empowering, blah, 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 blah. And I basically just got like shouted down, you know, everyone was agreeing with her, not with me. I was like, okay, you people are kind of stupid. It's so frustrating to have people who just cannot look critically at something like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's such a ridiculous concept, the whole slut walk thing. I mean, like you said, I completely support the idea of people wanting to change that victim blaming and change that if you are wearing a certain thing, that's somehow sending a message that you don't have boundaries, men have access to your body. I mean, we know those messages are being sent or being received. So I think we should talk about that. But yeah, the slut shaming thing, it really bothers me that no one looks at this critically from the left. You just have like conservatives kind of going, oh, these ridiculous feminists, they're so unself-aware that they're doing this, and men are just eating it up and they think they're making a point.
Yeah, I don't think conservatives are usually criticizing it from that lens. I think conservatives are usually criticizing this from more of like a puritanical lens of like, oh, a woman's body is scandalous and wrong. And so that part I actually, like, I disagree with the conservatives on that. I don't think that a woman's body should be seen this way, but I think it's undeniable that it is seen in a sexualized way by men. And this is kind of, I guess, circles me back to Billie then, is with her. So when I hear the quote that you read from her about the tank top, and Billie, for anyone who's not aware, she does have pretty big boobs, and she is absolutely right that if I was wearing that tank top versus her, it would be a non-story because there's not really much there. And I do think that it is bullshit that women's bodies are judged this way. And I think it's bullshit that she, just because she was known for not being revealing, that then if she goes out on what was probably a hot day in LA and like wanted to wear something that was comfortable for her, that has always been her thing, is like her clothes were what she was comfortable in at the time. And so if she was wearing that and not trying to get, you know, paparazzi photos, which it didn't look like she was, then I assume she was just wearing what was comfortable to her on a hot day. And there should be no problem with that. And I don't think she's doing anything wrong by doing that. And I think it would be ridiculous to say that she was. And so I can see, though, how then what she went through there turned into what we are now seeing with her, which is she was shamed for her boobs, for, you know, wearing a revealing outfit, for skin tight clothing. And so she kind of did what I think is a very natural response. And I do this in my life in a lot of ways, which is when you're told you can't do something, you go full on and just do that exact thing. That's why we're here today.
That's why we're both here today.
Like, yes. Yeah. So I totally get that instinct. And I think that that's kind of what she's done here, is she was told, no, Billie, you're supposed to be like the cool girl with the baggy jeans and the sweatshirts. And like, you're not supposed to be the sexy booby one. And then she was like, why not both? But actually, let me just be the sexy booby one now.
Mm.
And so she was like, now I think she's trying to prove that there's nothing wrong with her body and that she should be able to like be an artist who's taken seriously and like be seen as a sexual object if she wants to be. And, you know, there's no denying that that's what's happening in this music video. Like the whole thing is basically like a men's fantasy of what women do at sleepovers, for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah, and if you want to go look it up, it's called Lost Cause. So I'll pop a picture on the screen just so that you don't have to go look it up and you can see what we're talking about. And to be clear, you know, I haven't lost respect for her because she said here in this quote, I know people say I've lost all respect for her. Of course, I haven't lost respect for her. I mean, I don't have a ton of respect for celebrities, as you know, MK, but this is more of an indictment of the industry, which seems to really push all the pop stars to do this. After I watched this video, it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, although I didn't like it. Did you watch it?
Yeah.
It was very cringe, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be because if you look at some of these videos with these young female pop stars like Doja Cat, because then I started watching some Doja Cat videos, and I mean, yeah, this is like softcore pornography. So the point is not that we've lost respect for Billie, although, yeah, of course, there are people who see things that way. We don't see things that way. We're talking about this cultural phenomenon. And I agree with what you said, MK, about how this event last fall Boobgate seemed to kind of lead to this because she wanted to prove that she's hot. I don't know. Is that what it was? Like she did this Vogue cover.
I think she's talked a lot about how she just wants to be able to like have her body and like she doesn't want her body to be the story. Like she said that before in the past when she was wearing baggy clothes, and she has said basically things along the lines of, you know, I wear baggy clothes because I want, you know, I don't want people to pay attention to my body. And I think that what Boobgate, as we're now calling, I regret this, but here we are. I think what that showed her is that she can't opt out of that. And so to her, then it's not trying to prove like, yes, I can be sexy. She always knew that she could be sexy. That was the problem. That was the whole reason and I think it's especially important to think about her age. And right now she's like just over 18. I think she might be 19 now. And before, and she rose to fame, like her first big hit was when she was 15 years old. And I think that the desire to keep her in this kind of like virginal state was almost like part of her image then of like, she's untouchable, she's young, she's not going to play into your sexual fantasies. Like it was almost kind of like childlike. And a lot of her audience is very young as well. And so now I think it's like the growing and maturing stage of her career where now she's showing like, okay, you guys want to shame me for my body, but like, I've got nothing to be ashamed about. I'm proud of it. And I think that it's sort of, we've seen celebrities do this more and more in the internet era where they take power away from the paparazzi by just giving the public the direct access that the paparazzi would normally be fighting for. And so, you know, there's been a lot of like theorizing around celebrity gossip stuff that Instagram was like the end of paparazzi because all these celebrities could just give the photos to the public. And now I think that what Billie's done, and maybe this is clever in a way, or maybe if I want to put on my tinfoil hat, this was intentional on the part of the industry to drive her to do this. But I think what she's done is she has taken the power out of the hands of the paparazzi by reclaiming her sexuality and her body and putting it all out there. I mean, not literally all, like, you're right, it's not that bad, but putting a lot of it out there in ways that she hadn't previously. So now there isn't that much value in a tank top boobie photo because she has all of these photos and like videos all over the internet now of her with all her boobs out. And so she took power away from the people who were tormenting her, I think. And at least that's what I see her trying to do.
Okay. I was going to ask you, do you think that's successful? Do you think that's effective?
Well, it might be effective in, screwing that one paparazzo who's trying to get a booby tank top photo and those aren't worth any money anymore. But no, I think it's a trap. Like, women are in a trap. And this is like what you said before, is you can try to like not be the sex object that society wants women to be But then you're going to be shamed for not being that. Or you can play into it and try to be the sex object, but then you're going to be shamed for being that. And it's a total lose-lose for women. And we see women, I think, going a lot of times to one extreme or the other, and then embracing that extreme as their identity in a way that it's like, this is like my mask that I put onto the world. And like, they know that they're more than whatever side of this they've taken. And Billie is, I think, an example of someone who went from one extreme to the other, like overnight, it feels like to us just watching. But then, we see on the flip side, we see women who could never fit into feminine norms, like Demi Lovato, who was always criticized for her body, no matter what she did, no matter how hard she tried. And so what did she do? She said, well, then fine, I'm not a woman. And she went the full opposite. And I think that I think like Demi Lovato and Billie Eilish are kind of two sides of the same child star growing up. They can't fit into what society wants them to be. And so they need to find like an extreme and stick to it, or just try to brand themselves like based on one of these extremes. And just, I think it's all a mask though.
Yeah, you know what? Another Gail Dines quote is coming to mind, which is she says that young girls in our culture have to choose between being fuckable and being invisible. Now, I liked what Billie Eilish used to represent because she wasn't invisible. She was a
Yeah.
revered star with being completely covered up in baggy clothing. She almost dressed like a rapper, like how Eminem would dress, like with really loose baggy clothing. It was so cute. And my impulse was to be disappointed that now she's wearing tight corsets and sexy silk pajamas and showing so much. But I have to remind myself, I have to check that impulse and remind myself what she does doesn't affect me. And I think that's also important here is like people are getting so up in arms, but it really it affects our culture and we're all interconnected in that sense. But it's really not something to have an emotional reaction to. I mean, if we're going to be doing our thing where we give advice to younger women, it's like this isn't something that should cause you to have in any kind of emotional reaction, whether it's anger, disappointment, or honestly, I know it's tempting to worship celebrities, but you shouldn't even be worshipful of them. And I don't know, the thing about invisibility or fuckability, it did seem the reason I'm inclined to be disappointed in this change is because now she's almost like giving up the fact that she was fighting back against that.
Right.
She's like giving into that a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of agree. I think that she stood for something before that now is gone. And that's a shame because what other female role models, as far as like superstar celebrities, do young women have today who is really breaking these sort of gender norms? I mean, instead, what you have is like, just walls and walls of infinite scrolling Instagram face of, like Kardashian knockoffs. And Billie was not that. And so disappointed feels even like a strong word because I don't care.
Yeah.
I cared enough to watch the video,
right. That's the point I'm
but
trying to make.
it was more like morbid curiosity, and I like her music actually. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan. Some of it's a little too scary for me. I don't like horror, but
Okay.
She's a beautiful voice. And, I've always appreciated some of her music. And so I was curious. And I hope though that this is her way of trying, like I said, to take back some of this power, and that maybe this is just like, she's just going to do what she wants. And although I don't really buy into the like choice feminism, whatever you do is a feminist choice, what I do think is it is true that she was criticized for wearing revealing clothes. And now she is, as much as she is getting flack for it, like there are people, I mean, all that I saw really on Twitter was just like fans gushing. I mean, there were just like all of these young girls who were joking about how, oh my God, Billie gave us this during Pride Month because it's a very,
it's girls frolicking.
Yeah. Like I don't even want to say that it's like lesbian anything, because it's more like pornified version of what men
they're
would like.
twerking, they're sort of pecking each other on the lips.
Yeah. It seems like they're about to go have like a pillow fight orgy, like as soon as the camera cuts. Like that's the vibe that they're sending without actually showing any of that.
Yeah.
And so, all the like young Twitter lesbians were all like fawning over it. And, she was just getting as much love as hate, I think. And I'm happy for her. I don't know. I don't care.
But I don't want anybody to be getting bullied on the internet. It made me think of something. When she said here, I'm going to be a woman, I want to show my body. That made me think of how much capital there is in showing your body as a woman in this industry and in other areas of life as well. There's like money to be earned. There's a status to be gained for certain women. Because for some women, you will lose all status. Like she said, oh, people are going to lose all respect to me. That's not what happened here. She's going to make a ton more money. Her career is going to go up, up, up. She's going to get more attention, more eyes on her. She's using it just like Beyonce does to sell. And there's something in the fact that that is so commodified that bothers me. It's so completely capitalistic. It's like there is no boundary between what makes us human and what can be gained, what can be used to gain profit.
Yeah. I mean, I have two thoughts that come to mind in response to that. The first is that this seems like the very early stages of like the spectrum of what the sex industry is, essentially. Is, on the most extreme end, you have a human trafficking. And then on what we tend to think of the low end is we have things like OnlyFans or, people selling pictures of themselves that are sexualized. And so what makes what Billie's done differently is that there's music attached to it. And like, she didn't actually really show anything that like you couldn't put on Instagram. But it is this like the very early stages of this commodification, like you said, this like idea that we can buy and sell women's bodies as an object that can be just traded on the market. And I think that it's hard to separate that and to not say that she is contributing to this system when she does that. But at the same time, I hear what she said, I'm going to be a woman. I want to show my body. And that to me says that she has internalized these messages that women show their bodies. And like, you are not a woman if you're not being feminine, if you're not being sexualized. That, I mean, it's not lost on me that most other celebrities who dress in a gender nonconforming way, like baggy clothes and hoodies, are transing at this point. And so I think that she's thinking of, like, she must be seeing this, and other women her age, like everyone her age is trans now. And so she must be seeing this and thinking like, well, I'm not trans. Like, I am comfortable with being a woman. And I think that's great. Fully support. But then how do you fit that into what the current narrative is of what being a woman means? Being a woman means being feminine. And I feel like there's so many factors coming at her in this case. There's the industry, there's societal's general expectations and objectification of women. And then there's all this gender nonsense that's being put on it. And the words that she used like throughout talking about this, I think continue to show that all of these can be impacting this decision in a way that makes me really doubt that it's actually what she genuinely wants to do. And when someone does what they want to do, like, for example, in the case of Boobgate, when she was just walking down the street wearing a tank top, that I believe is what she genuinely wanted to do, because she was doing it when she thought no one was watching. She was doing it when like there wasn't anything to be gained from it. And if anything, there was only trouble to be had. And that I support. I don't buy at this point that this is what she genuinely wants to be doing, because there's just too many factors that she even alludes to in her messaging around it. If you want some shirts that are not going to get you into a boob gate of your own, you can find some in the 4W shop. We
They will just
have
get you in a turf gate.
yeah, just a turf gate. Like, you're definitely going to get canceled, but it won't be for your boobs. Like, probably, I
Perfect.
guess. I can't promise, but check it out. There will be a link somewhere. Hopefully you can get shirts there. And if you like the show and the free content that we create here, then please consider joining Plebity on Patreon. That is where you can go to support Identity Crisis and this show. You can also support all of the other great work that Plebity is doing. Sasha does some really amazing interviews over there. And if you subscribe on Patreon, you get them all a day early. So you get the scoop before anyone else. And you also support the Free Speech Fund, which is helping provide material support to canceled people. It's overall just a win-win-win. So go check it out. Link in the description.